Round up with all the other matches now, and let's start with my team. Manchester United at home to Cardiff at Old Trafford. Solskjaer gave a debut for Mason Greenwood. For Cardiff, Gunnarsson was playing his last game as a Cardiff player. So to the action. Well, Greenwood had an early chance. His header was pushed past the post by Edridge, who had a fantastic game, I have to say. And then on 23 minutes, Cardiff really hadn't done much up until then, but Dalu managed to bring down the forward Mendes Lang, who jumped up and converted the penalty to put Cardiff one up. After that, Greenwood hit a post, denied again by an Etheridge chip save, and Murphy forced a good save from De Gea before we reached the half-time interval. Into the second half, and a dreary United performance got even worse when on 54 minutes, calamitous defending allowed Mendes Lang to get his second as he was unmarked at the back post to head home 2-0. Etheridge denied a Rashford header, but Reed missed a chance to make it 3 near the end. The final whistle was a sense of relief for the Old Trafford faithful. One point that I want to make is the behaviour of Paul Pogba. I've been saying for some time that this guy is a cancer in the side. He has a tremendous amount of talent, but his attitude is appalling. And he confirmed that with behaviour in this match. Firstly, he got in a tangle with Duffy near the touch line and pulled him to the ground in temper. He was lucky not to get a red. And then at full-time whistle, he got aggressive towards a spectator who was hurling abuse at him. Now, I know that it's sort of a retaliation, but professional footballers can't do that. Spectators pay the money, and if they're not happy with your performance, then they've got every right to say what they want. And Pogba's behaviour, it was just intolerable. I am hoping that he is the first name on that sheet to transfer out of Old Trafford, because he is bad news. Anyway, back to the game then. Manchester United, final home game, they lost it by 2-0 to Cardiff. On the final day of the season, there's always one game that seems to be free-flowing, full of goals, lots of defensive errors, and a joy to watch for spectators. And we had another one on this day. It was at Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace playing Bournemouth. And I'll quickly run through the goals because there were lots of them. Early on, Palace were dominating, and 2 goals in minute 24 and 32 for Batshuayi, 2 poacher-style goals, put Palace 2 up. And on 37 minutes, things got even better when Zaha got the ball, rushed downfield, outpacing everybody. His effort was pushed out by Travers, the goalkeeper, but unfortunately it hit Simpson and bounced in the net for an own goal. So Palace were 3 up then. A glimmer of hope for Bournemouth just before half-time. On 45, Lerma hit a tremendous 30-yard strike that went in off the bar. So at the break, it was Palace 3-1. Into the second half, Bournemouth were not giving it up, and on 56, Ibe on the edge of a box hit the ball from into the corner, and it was now 3-2. 9 minutes later, though, however, Van Aanholt finished off a nice passing move, wall passes in the box to restore Palace to 4-2. but Bournemouth are having none of it. On 73 minutes, King at the far post made it 4-3. And the final piece of brilliance, really, happened in minute 80 when, after a great run by Sahar, Townsend managed to move into the box, and he finished it off with a nice shot into the corner. The final whistle then, Crystal Palace 5, Bournemouth 3. And important note on this is that Palace's goals at home had been woeful all season. So as you can imagine, the manager, Hodgson, was absolutely overjoyed, and he, upon managing this game, became the oldest manager ever to manage a Premier League game, which is quite a statistic. So final score then, Palace 5, Bournemouth 3. So to Turf Moor then, Burnley at home to Arsenal. Emery made 9 changes from the team that played in the Europa League, but he did retain his star striker Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and it was that man who hit a post early on from close range. Wood replied by hitting the woodwork at the other end shortly after that, but we reached the break goalless. Second half, different matter. 52 minutes, and that man from Gabon, Aubameyang, capitalised on an error by defender Me, and the striker slotted it wide of Heaton for 1-0. 9 minutes later, he was at the far post, and he timed his run excellently to volley sharply in off the post to make it 2. A few minutes later, Barnes got a goal back for Burnley, steering in a cross with his head. So 2-1. But in added time, Nichai added a third for the Gunners, and they ran out comfortable winners by 3-1. Aubameyang's brace put him in a 3-way tie for the Golden Boot with Marley and Salah. So final score then, Burnley 1, Arsenal 3. To the new White Hart Lane Stadium, Spurs at home to Everton. The crowd here were anticipating a flowing game, and they got one. Lamela was back for Spurs, but there were 5 changes from the Amsterdam team. Tosun was in up front for Everton, and we didn't take long before witnessing the first goal. 3 minutes, and Dyer punishing some poor defending from a corner, and he lashed it into the top corner of the net. So 1-0 Spurs. The rest of the half was a bit ponderous, although Lloris did deny an effort from the attractive-looking Bernard. Into the second half then, and Everton certainly upped their game. On 69 minutes, Walcott coming in from the right, and his left foot shot went wide of Lloris into the corner, and we were level 1-1. 4 minutes later, Everton had turned it round, and Tosun managed to scramble the ball home to put the Toffees 2-1 up. But then a few minutes later, a typical Ericsson free kick from 25 yards hit the corner to level things up 2-2. And that's how it finished. So Spurs probably happy with the point. Everton have had a good season overall for Silva, and the final score was Spurs 2, Everton 2. At Vicarage Road, last home game for Watford, and of course next week they're in the FA Cup final. They were at home to West Ham, the improving West Ham I might add. Kapoor was back for the Hornets, and Rice and Anderson were also in West Ham's starting lineup, having missed the last game through sickness. West Ham took the game to Watford, and they were rewarded after 15 minutes when their captain Noble finished off a nice move by slotting the ball in the corner wide of the keeper. That was 1-0 for the Hammers. And on 29 minutes, Antonio hit a shot that was pushed onto the bar by Foster, but Lanzini followed up to head in to make it 2-0. So that was about that for the first half, although just before the half-time whistle, Fabianski did deny Deeney a good effort. Into the second half then, and we were a minute in, and Zabaleta, dreadful back pass to Fabianski, and Delafeo nipped in, took the ball around the keeper and slotted it home, and so we were back to 2-1. Then an incident took place that really killed the game for the Hornets. Antonio and Holebas were running onto a through ball. They were outside the area, but Holebas managed to just touch Antonio, and he fell down like he'd been hit by a cannonball, and the referee pulled out a red card and sent off Holebas. It seemed a very harsh decision to me, and the consequence of this is he could well be banned from the cup final. So I hope they appeal and it's reversed, because it was a yellow at best. Anyway, after that, Watford seemed to lose a little bit of heart, and on 71 minutes, Arnautovic connected when Anderson's shot hit a post, and Arnautovic quick to latch onto the rebound. And then on 78, another goal for Noble, Antonio setting him up in the box, and he converted, and West Ham comfortably winners by 4-1. So, final game at Fulham Craven's Cottage in this Premiership season. In the week, Parker had been given the permanent job as the manager of Fulham, so now he could richly be described as the gaffer. It didn't do a lot, though, to the Fulham players, because, to be perfectly frank, they were outclassed through the 90 minutes. Newcastle looking a very polished side now under Benitez, and on 9 minutes, the ball was got to Shelvey on the edge of the box, and he clipped it in with a great volley into the corner, and that was 1-0. A couple of minutes later, Atsa's effort was pushed away by Rico, but it was more of a fumble, really, and Perez was following up, and he converted, as he's been doing recently, and so Newcastle were 2 up. That was the score at the break, but things got worse for Fulham after the break. On 61 minutes, Shah, possibly one of Newcastle's best players this season, had a clear run from a corner and headed the ball into the net. The defenders, well, I think they'd gone on their holidays. So that was 3-0 Newcastle. Fulham did have a goal chalked off for a dodgy offside, but on the 90 minutes, Rondon, who'd been very, very purposeful throughout, he had an effort, and he followed up quickly with his second attempt to convert to make it 4-0. That was the final score then at the whistle. Fulham 0, Newcastle 4. So to St Mary's, entertaining Huddersfield. Hassan Hüttl, the Southampton coach, has done a great job avoiding relegation, and hats off to him. The first half, well, not particularly attractive on the eye, although Moy for Huddersfield went close, put in an effort just over early on. But then on 41 minutes, a razor-sharp shot from Redmond, who's had a fine season, hit the top right corner to put the Saints 1 up at the break. Into the second half, and another dull affair, to be honest. This seems to typify Huddersfield's games all season. But on 59 minutes, they got a stroke of luck. Southampton's goalkeeper tried to bet clever in possession, and he lost the ball, and Pritchard accepted the gift and slotted the ball into an empty net. So that was 1-1. Charlie Austin went close near the end, but the whistle blew. Southampton 1, Huddersfield 1, the final score. So to the final game at the King Power Stadium. Leicester, who've had a pretty eventful season with lots of ups and downs, entertained Chelsea. Hazard was on the bench. Caballero started for Kepa, and Zabacosta was in at right back. Chelsea looked a little bit listless, really. Maybe the demands of that penalty shootout against Frankfurt had drained them. But they could rest assured that they just needed to match Spurs' result to finish third. Schmeichel denied Barkley early on after a peach of a pass from Jorginho. Leicester responded with Vardy on the break, but his final pass went astray. But the miss of the match happened just before the interval when Higuain, 6 yards out, managed to prod the ball wide. I'm sure a few years back it would have hit the net. So it was goalless at the break, and the second half, well, not a lot to report really. The inspirational Tielemans had a great effort that just went wide. Hazard came on but couldn't really raise the tempo, and it drifted to a goalless draw. So final score then at King Power, Leicester 0, Chelsea 0. So that's it then. That's the result shows for the last fixtures. I've enjoyed doing this all year. I hope you've enjoyed listening. It's quite a demanding task, but nevertheless, as I'm a football fanatic, I enjoy the demand, so to speak, in bringing this to you. Now, if you would prefer to see me in the flesh, I'm certainly prepared to go on video, but my feeling is that if it's an audio podcast, you're more inclined to listen in the car maybe, or when you're doing something else. The thought of watching me on video would not be that appealing. Of course, I do add slides to the podcast and photos, but you can listen to it without seeing those. But it's basically to help with the information regarding who's playing, who's scoring, who's saving. So we're at the end then. Just a word to confirm that the Golden Boot was won by 3 players: Aubameyang, Salah and Mane on 22 goals. The Golden Glove was won by Alisson for the most clean sheets, 1 ahead of Ederson. The goal of the season, well, my personal favourite is that excellent effort by Townsend but at Manchester City, which led to a rare defeat by them, although Match of the Day selected Vincent Kompany's effort in their last home fixture against Leicester. So anyway, I will be doing another show after the FA Cup final, which will be a sort of review of who's won what, who's gone down, a little look at players, a little look at my thoughts with regard to team performances, and a little preview of what I expect next season. So anyway, that's your lot. Hope you've enjoyed it.